Let's read some creepy Reddit stories about Randonautica. Not mine, but my boyfriend told me this a few nights ago. He and a few friends used the app when they were in their teens, 16 to 17. It took them down a dirt road in the middle of nowhere in the woods in Texas for a few miles to a barn. There, on the barn's balcony, stood a naked man holding a hook. This man then proceeded to jump down and chases them till they are about half a mile from their car. On the way back to the car, they passed through a smaller shack containing hooks, and one of the group grabbed two. They still have these hooks to this day, because other than that, they thought they had all hallucinated. Apparently, this was in Texas near an area where the Hookman murders happened in the 50s. To this day, my boyfriend wonders if he met a serial killer or just some random psycho, and they wonder what would have happened if they had entered that barn. I remember a few years ago, I went randonauting with my then boyfriend. I can't remember what I put in for the second thing, but the first thing was fortune, and we were led to a super nice neighborhood. I had no idea it even existed. It was so far out of the way, and it felt surreal. We kept driving around, and finally, after getting bored, I think I set it to anomaly or something, and it led us to the driveway of a house nearby. It looked normal, but there were electricity wires hovering at the end of the driveway just above us, right at the point's coordinates. It was normal for most houses in the area we'd lived in, but there was red string tied in a knot on the lowest wire, almost like it was waiting for us. We didn't get out of the car, but it felt weird the whole way back, and we thought we were being followed, so we turned into a gas station. It's so weird because we never could find that rich neighborhood again. Maybe it's just fault of memory, but the whole time something felt off. Went on randonauting with the intent of money. Pin brought near a convenience store with 2 ATM machines inside. So I thought, yeah, right, that's got money in it, but I have to withdraw. But what I saw in front of the convenience store where the actual pin is was unsettling. A man with a paper bag standing on the actual spot, looking at me as I was standing in front of the convenience store. Next to him was a truck with 2 other guys on the phone. As I looked away walking, they were all looking at me, with one of them pointing at me as if they want to run after me. I ran fast and never looked back. A few years back, my friend and I decided to randonaut later at night. We set our intention to something exciting, and it brought us to the train tracks in our neighborhood. As we pulled up, there was an oncoming train and a man who immediately drove his car around the barriers and head on into the train. We freaked out, obviously, and called the police to report it. I think he ended up seriously injured, but lived, fortunately. My best friend and I randonauted like 4 years ago and found this creepy abandoned gas station biking distance from my house at 2 a.m. It still had signs up for 65-cent gas and everything. The building was gone, just gas pumps standing on an empty piece of concrete in the middle of a busy part of town. Kinda cool, kinda creepy. The actual creepy part came when we went looking for that gas station again a couple days later and could not find it anywhere, or even anywhere it could have been. It just disappeared. I used to live in a place with huge organized crime problems. So one day I was testing the app with a friend, and I told him to try it and think of some intention. The location given was in the middle of nowhere, a couple of miles outside the city. I asked him what he thought of, and he said, dead bodies. I told him I wasn't going there at all, so we found other cool places. Fast forward a few months, I moved away, but kept following that city's local news agencies on social media, mainly because it's a hassle to unfollow each one. One day, I read on my feed that a group of volunteers dedicated to look for people kidnapped by criminals had found a few bodies in the exact same location that had been given to us by Randonautica. I sent the article to my friend, and he couldn't believe it either. It was very creepy. Okay, I've never used Randonautica before, but after reading these stories, I kind of want to. I want to see if I see anything scary. Let me know if you've ever used Randonautica and if anything creepy or weird happened to you. Let's read some more scary Randonautica stories. I've had a lot of requests to do more Randonautica. I have another Randonautica video up on my TikTok. I have a whole episode on my podcast on Spotify, reading scary Randonautica stories. and they're all different. So be sure to go check out my podcast on Spotify. Anyway, let's get into these stories. I have 3 of them, and make sure to stay till the end because I'm saving the best story for last. For the first location, it brought us to this baseball field in this woody area. There was a statue of an old sports coach, which was terrifying walking up to in the dark. The second coordinates were on this random road a couple minutes out of town. We pulled over and turned our flashlights on. I told my mom to take some photos, and as soon as she opened her camera, her phone that was on 50% before had suddenly died. I then took some photos of the road after we got in our car. As we got in, Stayin' Alive started playing at full blast when we previously had the radio off. As soon as my mom plugged up her phone, it powered on and showed that her phone was at 47%. Okay, so something obviously didn't want them using their phone at this location, and that is creepy. The first time I used it was with friends on their phone. Intention was somewhere we could drive / something impossible. It took me to my mom's friend's house, which was very strange considering I don't talk to her and only know where she lives because we dropped some stuff off there a couple of times. It was also odd considering it was one of my friend's phones who has never known of this person's existence. After this encounter, I told my coworker about it, and he wanted to try it on my phone. Keep in mind that I don't have this person's info as we just worked together, and it actually ended up taking him to his house where he currently lived. This was already odd, but then my other coworker tried it as well, again on my phone. It took him to the executive chef's house. Very odd, and I can't figure out a way to explain it as I don't put my info out there on the internet because of paranoia. I don't recall letting anyone online know where I worked or whatnot. See, and this just brings us back to the theory that maybe there's people like hacking the app and finding out like all of your personal info, or it's something way more sinister than that. I have a story with this app and it has completely changed my life. I too wanted to try Randonautica and went on an adventure of my own with the help of the app. I live in Indiana, but I won't say where, as to keep my location safe, but it pointed me to a direction close to a fairly well-known trestle nearby me. Almost everyone knows about it, and yes, I do mean everyone. It sent me to a secluded spot and my intention was death. Upon arriving, I left my car in a gravel lot about a 5 to 10 minute walk from the location it was giving me. Upon first getting there, it appeared to just be a random field in the middle of nowhere and nothing really notable. I started walking around thinking there was something hidden at this location or this location was a bust. About 20 minutes of looking around, I got closer to some nearby woods, and I started hearing some twigs breaking around me. I wasn't sure where they were coming from, but I figured it was just a deer or other wildlife because they are fairly common in the woods surrounding me. But it really started to bug me as I heard the noises approaching me more and more. I brushed it off and continued searching the woods for whatever I was supposed to find. About 5 minutes in, and I could distinctly hear the sounds approaching me, and as I looked around, there was a man standing behind one of the trees looking at me. I pretended that I wasn't panicking. I slowly started walking away, pretending I didn't see him, back in the direction of my car. As I did, the man slowly let me leave for a little bit before he started to follow me, almost giving me a false sense of security. As soon as I heard him following me, I made a mad dash for my car, and this man was quickly in pursuit, quicker than I thought he would be. I don't think I've ever ran so fast in all my life. When I saw my car again, I quickly unlocked it and hopped in while simultaneously locking the doors as he reached my window. He tried the handle to my door and stared at me with a look I've never seen before. It was a look of pure malice and insanity staring into my very soul. He pulled out a knife as a way to try to intimidate me. I quickly pulled away, having seen this, as he tried to stop me by attempting to stab my window and one of my tires. I quickly heard a pop from one of my tires, but I didn't care. I needed to escape. He still stood staring at me, refusing to move, so I stepped on the gas in a last-ditch effort to play chicken with the man. He didn't move. I watched him fly on my hood and over my car, and I drove right through him. I started having a panic attack, wondering if I had just killed a man, and I drove all the way home crying and second-guessing what I had done. I finally got home and pulled in my driveway, and I saw the scratches on my car from where the man was driving the knife over my car and popped my tire. I called the police shortly after and showed them the damage and showed them the location that this happened. When we got there, they could only find a small amount of blood with no obvious trail. I was relieved, but also terrified that whoever was attacking me could still be in my area. I haven't felt safe at home ever since, knowing that he could potentially find me again. To my fellow randonauts, take my advice, and if you're gonna use this app, always record your findings. I hate that I was so stupid as to not record when I got there, but I honestly didn't think I was gonna find anything. Take my story how you want, but the level of fear and loathing of this man potentially being a 10-minute drive from me is horrifying, to say the least. That is freaking creepy.
So have you guys ever heard of the Randonautica app? If you're unfamiliar with this app, this app is creepy as shit. On the surface, it seems fine. Randonautica is an app that generates coordinates based upon user intent. And when I say user intent, I absolutely mean user intent. When you generate the coordinates, you think of what you want to find at the end of that coordinates. For example, you might think truth, and you hit the coordinates, and you go to the end of the coordinates, and you might find something that is truth-based, or show you a truth. And the darker you get with it, the worse it gets. I don't suggest it. And the reason why I don't suggest it is because I did it. 2 years ago, I started doing the ghost hunting stuff. And when somebody told me that, hey, you should try the Randonautica app, I'm like, that's fine. Because if I can do ghost hunting at night by myself, this app is no big deal. So I tried the app. But did I try it in the middle of the day? Hell no. I set a 1 mile radius and I focused my intent on something dark, something scary. And the app kicked out some coordinates. It was 1 mile into the woods behind my house. I am familiar with the woods behind my house, but this one was just off the beaten path a little bit. So I grabbed the flashlight and headed out. Now these woods aren't new to me. I've walked them 100 times on lives, walking around by myself, hunting ghosts with the ghost apps. For some reason, this one felt different. When I started through the woods, I kind of got scared because I didn't know what I was going to find. And I knew I was going to find something. I kept checking the app, making sure that I was going in the right direction, and I was. I got about 50 yards from the coordinates, and the deer trail that I was following towards it, it just stopped. So I had to force my way through the brush for 50 yards. Give or take, it might have been 20 yards for all I know. I was scared at this point. I started getting close to the point, and I saw that the woods kind of cleared out a little bit. There was a small clearing there, and that's when the hair on the back of my neck stood up. The app generated a point where there was little to no trees. I walked around this spot for about 2 minutes, and then I saw an old coffee can, and it was a Folgers coffee can from probably the 1970s. It didn't have a lid on it. I looked inside of it, and there were, honest to God, animal bones in that coffee can, and I was like, I'm done. I am freaking done. I am out of here. I turned to walk away, and as I started back, I had to check to make sure that I was heading in the right direction because it's dark. When I looked down at my phone, I noticed that I was standing right next to another pile of bones. Now this was like an animal that had just deceased and had just laid there and rotted. It had been there for a long time. I start back towards the tree line and I see 2 more piles of bones. The one pile of bones was stacked up on top of each other, and then I thought about that damn coffee can. Somebody put those bones in that coffee can, and that's when I heard something behind me on the other side of that clearing. Something big was moving through the brush. It was probably a deer, but I was not going to stick around and find out. So I pushed through the trees all the way back to the spot where I thought the deer trail was. It took me forever to find the deer trail. When I finally found the deer trail, I was freaking gone. I booked it out of there. When I got back home, I deleted that app. And I went back to doing ghost hunts only. I went back to talking to spirits in the cemetery and in the woods, because I'll be damned if I ever go back over there again. Now, you might be wondering, is this really your story, Alan, or did you just pull something off of the internet? No, dude. No, this is my story. 100% my story. I fully intended when I arrived at those coordinates to open up the ghost app and talk to the spirits at the coordinates, because that would be cool, right? No, hell's to the no. I did not get a chance to do that because I got, honest to God, scared and I booked it out of there. The worst part about it is, how does this app know? How does this app know that you're going to find what you're going to find at the coordinates? I have read so much shit on the internet, and I have watched all kinds of YouTube videos about this app, stories that are much worse than this one, but stories that I 100% believe, because I've had an experience exactly like this. Have you ever tried this app? And if so, tell me your story, because this app is one of the things that made me believe that we live inside of a simulation. but I want to know what you think. Damn it, man.
What the is Randonautica, and like why is this a thing? Because I have gone down this rabbit hole after receiving 2 spooky scary storytime submissions from 2 different people who shared their experiences using the app that left them completely unsettled and scared. And after I read the stories, I was unsettled and scared, and so of course I had to download it. And no, this is not an ad, quit reporting my post. I've literally never been in contact with the people who developed this app, nor do I think that my stories about it are going to make people want to download it. But basically there have been a ton of stories about people who have reported finding crime scenes. And as a preface to the stories that were shared with me, I feel like I have to tell you a little bit about how the app works because I wasn't sure. So basically you download the app, you put in an intention. So some people just put in like anomaly, which will just take you somewhere random around where you're at. Or you can set puppies or like just something that you're hoping to see. And hopefully when you go to this GPS coordinate that it randomly gives you, you find puppies or whatever you're looking for. The first story was sent in by a girl named Jules. She said that's her real name, but she didn't want to be tagged. She said in 2021, her and her friend were bored, so they decided to download the app because they heard that people were finding weird stuff. They put in their location. They decided they were going to set their intention to death. I don't know why they did this. I guess they were just morbidly curious, but the app spits out a GPS coordinate and it's on the middle of the highway. They drive there. It brings them to a place where there was a dent in the guardrail. She said we should have stopped then, but we were curious. So then we put in our intention to find scary. It gives them another GPS coordinate. They drive, they find themselves in a church parking lot, but the GPS coordinate it gives them was in a field behind the church. So they park and they start walking down this grassy hill toward the field, and behind the field is a wooded area. As they're walking to this coordinate, they realize it's at the back of the field, and as they get closer to the tree line of the woods, they see a wooden shack built at the edge of the forest. She said she was scared, her friend was scared. She knew they were both scared, but they didn't want to chicken out. So they're getting closer, and as they approach this shack, they hear this guttural scream come out of the shack. She said it was not human, it was not animal, it was unlike anything she's ever heard before. She said it was a growl, it was a screech at once, and she genuinely does not know how to describe it. She says once they heard it, they both turn around and start booking it back to the car. They're running. They finally turn around once they reach the parking lot and look back at the shack, and they see a pair of red glowing eyes peering at them from the tree line, and she says she has not used the app since. The second story is scarier, and it's from a guy named Alex. He said him and his girlfriend were up late one Saturday night just hanging out. They were both able to sleep in the next day, and they started talking about weird apps and creepy stuff, and his girlfriend's like, oh yeah, have you heard about Randonautica? And he's like, no. She's like, we should download it and play with it. She tells him about it. He's like, let's do it. Harmless way to kill time. It's about 3 a.m. at this point. He said they're from a small town in Iowa. They both know the town like the back of their hand, so they set the location to Anomalous just to see where it'll lead them. He said he didn't expect much. He was just hoping it would bring them to a place that he had never been to before. The app spits out a GPS coordinate. They start driving there. As they're getting closer, it's the edge of town. There's like really nothing around. So his girlfriend looks up the address on Google Maps. She's like, this isn't a place. He's like, what do you mean it's not a place? She's like, yeah, there's like nothing on the map for this address. She's like, there's no street name. It's just an address in the middle of the woods. He's like, well, let's just go see what's there. They take the nearest road to this coordinate. They park the car on the side of the road. They said there were no other cars around, no street lights, like it was in the middle of some trees. So they park the car on the side of the road and they get out and they start walking. His girlfriend is feeling unsettled. Alex is like, let's just see what's here. It's probably just a glitch. There's probably nothing. They're using their phones as flashlights as they're walking through the trees. He said the walk was probably like 10 minutes until they reached this house. He said eventually they see a structure in the distance and she's like, what's that? And Alex is like, I think it's a house. They get closer and it is a house, but it's abandoned, like boarded up windows, paint peeling, shingles missing off the roof, whole deal. They get closer to the house and they see on the front door someone has spray painted the word leave. They're standing at the door trying to figure out if they should find a way in. Alex's girlfriend is like, I effing hate this. I want to go back to the car. And Alex said he was like 50-50 split. Like he's not really scared and he also didn't want to seem scared in front of her. So he's debating going in. And as they're standing out there talking about it, they hear what sounds like furniture being dragged across the floor inside the house. Then he said they heard 3 knocks, but it was coming from inside the house. Alex's girlfriend is like, absolutely not, going back to the car now. And Alex is like, you know what, it was probably just an animal, but he said deep down he was scared too, like no doubt about it. But then Alex's girlfriend's phone buzzes and they have an in-app notification from Randonautica and it says, new location alert, follow. I don't know if this is a thing that the app does. I've never used it besides downloading it to do research for this story time. So if you can weigh in, let me know. But Alex is looking at it and he's like, what the F? And as they're talking about it and looking at it, the door creaks open. So they shine their flashlights on the inside of the house and there's nobody in there. It's just a dilapidated old house. The floorboards are disgusting, covered in dirt. There's a wood burning stove in one corner and there's just spray painted graffiti all over the floor. It looks like maybe some squatters were in there at one point because there's also trash all over. Alex is like, see, there's no one in here, like let's go. So he takes a step inside and he's using his phone flashlight and he sees on one of the walls there's graffiti that's spray painted and it says don't look back. So he turns to show his girlfriend and he's like, look at this, and she's nowhere. He's calling her name, he's walking on the floorboards, they're creaking as he's looking for her, and he hears her scream from a back corner of the house. Turns out she had fallen through the floorboards into like a dirt basement or a crawl space in one of what he assumes was the back bedroom. It wasn't that far of a drop, so she was okay. So he reaches down to get her and help her out. She's crying, panicking, freaking out. And they see there's a wooden plank down in this crawl space thing that she fell into. And that is spray painted. It says, "You should not have followed. Goodbye." He helps her out of this hole. They book it back to the car. She closes the app. He says, "I have no idea what that place was, but I don't want to know. I've never looked for it in the daytime." And he said, "You cannot tell me that there's not something evil with that app." So I don't know. If you've used this app, let me know if you've had any strange experiences. And also, I highly encourage you, if you don't want to sleep tonight, to type in the search bar from this video, Randonautica, and go down that rabbit hole. There's a lot. Keep sending me your spooky, scary stories. I'll keep adding them to this playlist.
Today's creepy, scary story time is about why you should not tell Randonautica to take you to something scary. So this story takes place in Mayfield, Kentucky in 2021 when Randonautica was really popular. So my follower, her ex-roommate, and her fiance at the time, so ex-fiance, decided to try Randonautica, and they set the intention for something scary. The thing that they got was a few blocks away, and so they decided to walk because she said that her ex-fiance had been drinking, the roommate didn't have a license, and my follower just did not like to drive. So they chose to walk because it wasn't that far anyway. So they walk and they get to this big mansion. It's a well-known mansion in the area. She said it has an upstairs like balcony and window, and it's on a giant piece of property. They get to the house and they don't want to walk on the property because she felt weird about that, which I understand that. I wouldn't want to walk on someone else's property either. She said it's like a long walk up to the house anyway, and they don't want to do that. So they're just standing there for like 5 minutes, and she's kind of like, okay, this was a waste of time. She also said that it's October and this specific mansion never decorates, which is important for the next thing. So they start to leave because, like I said, she was like, this is such a waste. This was so stupid. Nothing happened. We didn't find anything. And they start to walk away, and she looks up one more time at that window with the balcony and sees a woman in what appears to be a wedding dress. She found it to be really odd because, again, they don't decorate or do anything creepy typically. So she was like, she showed her roommate and fiance at the time, and they all got really freaked out, but they were like, maybe they were just tired of us standing here in front of their house, and they decided to try and creep us out to get us to leave. And so they ended up leaving. Well, a few days later, they were like, let's just try again. So this time they set the intention for the word run. Now this time it was dark outside. It was about 10 or 11 p.m., but she said it wasn't a big deal because the location that it picked was only a few blocks away, and it was at a football stadium in an area where she was very familiar with because she did marching band there. Right next to it was the dog park, and right next to that was where her grandma works at the senior citizen center. And so she was like, there's a lot of lights out there, so I didn't think that it would be that bad. And so they head over there. They get over there and they start walking through the grass, and this black car starts slowly like creeping near them. And immediately she's like, okay, I don't play about my safety. I have a pocket tool, a taser, and pepper spray. So this car keeps following them. So finally she stops and looks at the car and gives the "can I help you" kind of gesture. And this is when a man in his late 40s, early 50s rolls down his window and is trying to convince them to get in the car. She tells, her ex-fiance and her roommate, we need to go. Like, speed walk. Don't walk slow. And we don't need to go back the same way we came. We need to go another way. Let's try to get to this gas station. I think she said it's called Pockets gas station, so that they can be around people, because right now they're alone out at nighttime and this is not a good situation. So they start rushing to this gas station, and they have to run down the highway for like quite a while, and they're on the right side, and they're like, okay, well, we're on the highway, we should be good because at least here there's cars passing by, and if we scream, I'm sure someone would notice, right? So like I said, they're on the right side of the road, and the gas station is going to be up there on the left side of the road. But they have to pass this trailer park. When they start to pass this trailer park, this beam of light starts blinding them. And so she tells them, like, stop, let me see what the hell this is. And so she, like, you know how you put your hand out and you try to cover the light so you can see the person behind the light that's blinding you? Well, it's creepy guy in the black car. So she tells them
run. This man starts yelling at them in Spanish, and he's shining the light on them, like spotlighting them while they're running down the highway. So they get all the way to the red light, and they said they didn't even wait for the light to turn. They just ran straight across the street, and there's a fence around the gas station, so you have to go like around another way to get in there. But they said they just had to jump the fence. They ran in the store, and the two ladies that were working there were asking like, "Are you guys okay?" And they're like, "No. There is a creepy man in a black car who is literally chasing us and has followed us all the way from the football field. Can you please call the cops if he pulls in here?" So sure enough, they see out the glass, here comes that black car pulling up to the gas pumps. So the ladies are like, "If he comes inside, we're gonna call the cops. Go hide in the bathroom." So they said they hid in the bathroom for like 20 minutes, and I guess he never even got out of the car. I mean, I personally think they should have still called the cops, but I guess they didn't. But she ended up calling her ex-fiance's mom to come and get them, and she said she will never ever play Randonautica again, that she's lived there since 2011, I think she said, and that she's never experienced someone so evil, that his eyes weren't even just brown, they were like black, and she could just feel his evil, bad intentions. But that she's never seen him or this car ever again. And it was just such an insane, horrifying experience. Be careful what you ask Randonautica to take you to. This is part 2 for why you should never ask Randonautica to show you something creepy. So Jenna drops Mia off at her house because Mia is absolutely done with this situation. And Jenna goes back home. Jenna lives alone. So I'm prefacing that for a reason. Jenna lives alone. Jenna still has the freaking Polaroid, which is a big mistake, but she doesn't think anything about it. She just kind of throws it on her nightstand in her room, does her thing, lives her life, does her nightly things, right? So at first it's fine, nothing's abnormal. I mean, yeah, the whole pin drop at her house thing was creepy, but she's like, whatever, I'm so done with this. Until at night, when she starts to get ready for bed. So she starts getting ready for bed. She walks out of her room to go brush her teeth in the bathroom. When she's brushing her teeth, she hears the TV in her room start that really loud static. Like it just turned on and went straight to that obnoxious static. And when she walked in there to check, she also noticed that the lamp on her nightstand where the Polaroid is laying, that lamp is on. And she is, of course, freaked out. And another thing she noticed was that her cat's acting funny. She does have a cat. The cat's acting funny. It's like pacing around, very uncomfortable. The next thing is she can hear footsteps out in her like hallway, but not like stomping footsteps. It's like someone dragging their feet with socks on. Now at this point, she is definitely freaked out, but what is she really gonna do about it? It's nighttime. So she gets in bed and goes to sleep, and just like any other typical horror story, she wakes up around 3 a.m. But she doesn't wake up to any noise. She wakes up because she feels like something is watching her. And so she looks around her room and she feels like she can see a shadow at the end of her bed. But when she goes to grab her phone to turn her light on to look, it's gone. So she goes back to sleep. She gets up the next morning and she looks at the Polaroid beside her bed. And she gets a little weirded out because she said she feels like it looks different. Like the girl in the photo was like this, and then now her head is tilted like this and her eyes are darker. And so she sends a picture to Mia and she's like, "Hey, does this look different from yesterday?" And Mia's like, "Yeah, her head was not tilted yesterday and her eyes were definitely not that dark in that photo." Still, for some reason, she does not get rid of the Polaroid. She just leaves it there. So the next night, she goes to bed, and again, she wakes up around 3 a.m. But this time, now remember, the Polaroid is burned. The Polaroid looks like someone tried to burn it, but it didn't burn, or they put it out too early. So the next night around 3 a.m., she wakes up to her fire alarm going off. It's screeching through her entire house. She gets up and ends up having to just snatch it out of the ceiling because it won't stop screeching. There was no smoke, no fire, obviously. It was just randomly going off, and she could not sleep. So she just went and sat on the couch all night. Jenna's
final straw was her walking into her bedroom, and the Polaroid that was on her nightstand was now laying on her pillow. And she was like, oh no, I'm done with this. I don't care what this is about. I don't care who's in the photo. She grabbed that Polaroid, drove it back to where she found it. She said she didn't do any ritual, no cleansing or anything, which I personally think she should have. And she should have, if you know anything about paranormal stuff, you need to be like, hey, you cannot come back home with me. You have to stay here. You have to use your authority over these things. But all she did was just like buried it back where she found it, just put it back under the leaves like she found it. And she said that everything felt lighter. She went back home and everything was back to normal. No more sounds, no nothing. 2 lessons you should have learned from this story. Do not take random, weird, creepy objects into your home. And don't ask Randonautica to show you something creepy, because you just might get exactly what you asked for. Also, if you do have any of your own personal creepy stories, you can either DM them to me or send them to the email that I have in my bio. I read other people's creepy stories. If you don't mind me reading them, send them to me.
Let's talk about scary randonauting. If you're new here, hi. I just talked about some pretty scary stuff, and today I'm going to be talking about my best friend's experience randonauting. Absolutely crazy, and she just told me about it. If you don't know what randonauting is, it is this app that you put on your phone called Randonaut, and you set an intention to take you somewhere within a certain distance. You can set the distance and the radius and stuff, and it'll take you somewhere to fill your intention. Many of you might be familiar when those teenagers found those 2 bodies in the suitcase and they posted it on social media. That's what they were using. Anyways, let's get into it. So my best friend was out randonauting when the sun was still barely up and set the intention to, I think creepy, something like that. They start driving and they soon realize that they are driving on a gravel road in the middle of nowhere. There are wheat fields all around them because we live in the Midwest, and it's dark by the time that they get out there. As my friend and everyone in the car was like, this is bogus, a crow flies and almost hits the car. This bird got so close to the car that everyone started screaming. So my friend obviously parks the car because that was really hectic, looks at my friend M, who's in the passenger seat, and kind of looks past his head for a second and sees someone standing in the fields. Now, she tells me she doesn't know what it was and she wasn't sure what it was, so she never told me about it, but her instinct was to get out of there. So that's exactly what she did. She turned the car around and she looked one last time into the field to see if it would still be there, and it was gone. And at that point in time, she's telling me that, and she's like, well, I don't know what it was. And I said, if your body's telling you that you just need to go to be safe, it was probably something that was not supposed to be out there with you guys. The crazy thing is, too, that she never told anyone in the car what she saw, either because she didn't want to scare them. But that is one of my biggest fears living in the Midwest, is I'm going to be driving at night through a field or something, or on a road next to a field, and I'm going to look over and see someone or something in the field. I think she handled it perfectly, though, by not telling anyone, because if it was me in the car, I would have started freaking out. But that's going to do it for me. Stay tuned for more ghost stories.